regularly scheduled episode of What's in the Dungeon podcast, brought to you by Obi-Wan Kenobi's ghost from Star Wars 6, now played by Murph.
Chinchilla.
No. I'm just saying that because you've still got like this really hazy blue outline going on around you.
I can't look green screens. All right.
No, you're fine. You look. So before they remastered the 6, like we had the VHS cassette tapes, that's kind of what it looked like. It looked like they just did like this very translucent blue filter over Ben Kenobi. So you kind of look like that, Murph, but not nearly as intuitive in the ways of the Force, unfortunately. This is a podcast answering all of your questions regarding Dungeons and Dragons, such as first question of the night, Murph: does God control dice rolls? Does God control dice rolls? And the answer, Murph,
grand scheme of things.
And the answer, Murph, might surprise you. Yes, he does. Proverbs 16:33. We may throw the dice, but the Lord determines how they fall. The Lord, Murph. The Lord. All right. Thank you for tuning in. That's it. That's the only question we had. Everyone have a great night.
Ask that question?
No one asked that question. It was me. It was a me question. This is a podcast. This is a Murph, I'm gonna turn your mic up just a little bit. Just talk for a second.
Hello.
Okay,
I don't know what I'm doing.
That's good. That's fine. Okay, I think we're balanced out. We talk about Dungeons and Dragons and other lots of things, video games. Don't listen to the first 15 episodes because we talked about things that were weird. But now we're back, new and improved, 2.0, even though we never really even got a 1.0.
I didn't know there was a 2.
Mm-hmm. It was. Surprise. But yeah, we're doing good. We're back. We're regularly scheduled now. We've now hit 2 episodes on every other week. We're doing great.
That's true.
We were going to do something last week, but Murph had basically the equivalent of genital warts in his eye. So we couldn't do that. Yeah, it was nasty. There's pictures.
That's a thing, though, that you can have. So that's what makes it worse.
You can have it your way.
Plagued me with
at Subway.
Why does it hate? Okay.
It's the I think it's the underside of your hat.
Well, it's green. It's not blue.
But it's a green screen.
It's a blue screen.
No, it's green. It's called a green screen. That's okay.
Slightly blue.
So we got I got a couple questions for tonight. Murph might have some questions. Probably going to go about an hour or longer, at least an hour. We'll say minimum an hour. If anyone tunes in and would like to ask a question, please do so because we're so very bored. Please ask us a question.
Because Steve, that's why.
But if you don't, it's fine. So I actually, I was gonna put it to you. I asked this question kind of at the end a lot. I was gonna ask you at the beginning just to kind of get out of the way. What are you playing, Murph?
So yesterday was my off day. And I spent a lot of my time about the time that you messaged me. We spent a lot of time trying to get Skyrim together to work.
Yes. Okay, that sounds terrible.
So we got it. It worked. It's not meant for that, so it's not going to be like, the AAA experience that you may come to expect in some games, but it does work. My brother and I finally got it up and operating, and we were playing it, and it was an adventure. It's basically just after Helgen, for those that know what that means.
The Battle of Helm's Deep.
You can legitimately get as many people as you want to play the game. So you can just pile everyone in, you can share adventures together throughout a fully open world and fully realized Skyrim, but now with other characters that have their own names and their appearances are as they are. You're not just playing with generic T-pose guy, like they are physically able to play the game. It was a thing. In that same segue and tangent, I messaged Connor today and was like, I now remember why I stopped playing Skyrim. Genuinely. It crashes regardless of if you're playing vanilla
What?
Or if you're playing modded,
Murph, no.
More
Todd would.
the other.
My friend Todd would not release a game that would crash. My friend Todd is a very intuitive designer. He would not allow a game to come.
What kills me, genuinely, is that I can't tell if it's one of those things like, and I know this is going to sound ridiculous because this doesn't happen often, but in gaming it can, where when the hardware you're using is too good for the program you're trying to operate, like it just doesn't understand how to handle new architecture, so you run into more problems than you would than if you were playing on a system that was older.
Yeah.
With older parts and older or like less updates, because it's just like I'm playing on my laptop, so it's not even as good as actually technically. The only thing that's worse is the GPU, but I'm playing on the laptop. I'm playing on 165 hertz, and like you can tell the game was never meant to be played higher than 60 hertz. Like it just doesn't know what to do.
Mm-mm.
Also, draw distances have increased phenomenally, so my render distances are like the full it's like a landscape of Skyrim. So I'll be running and just see something go.
Yep, it just immediately just assumes form.
It's like it would make sense if they had like that fog of view. Like,
yeah.
Oh, it's really blurry. But I can see clearly. For
it's literally just
game.
the entire
so, like,
map revealed.
You see a guy walking, and then the guy's just like T-posing. He's T-posing, and then he gets within a certain draw distance, and then he's just, now I'm walking. It's like. It's small stuff. Like I know people shit on the Anniversary Edition a lot, but I love the amount of shit they put in the game from Anniversary Edition. It does bring new life back into the game to see like fully realized, like almost like Dragonborn or Dawnguard size DLCs dropped into the game. Not necessarily for free because you had to buy the Anniversary update, but just like to have more life in the game was cool, and it is fun still to play. But like, I'm just literally like. I'm walking from Whiterun to Iverstead, and I'm just minding I'm not gonna fast travel. I'm just gonna walk. Like I just want to experience the landscape of the game in ultra.
Experience Todd's dream.
Experience a game that Todd had little to do with.
No, look, my man Todd, he was hands on. Hands-on from day one.
Quote of him from that game was like, I really expected Skyrim to bomb so I could give a reason to never have to make another one. And he's like, and it sold.
Look here.
It kept selling.
Look, my man Todd would never diss that. Okay, this is obviously a manufactured news.
Yeah, it's slander. No, but it was just, I'm just walking, and I literally I meet a guy, and we all know this. Again, if you've played Skyrim for any amount of time, you know this exact dialogue. This guy's like, whoa, stranger, like, keep your distance. And you're like, what are you doing? And he has an ox-ass paint all over it. And he's like, I'm taking this to make a sacrifice to the giants because I believe that by sacrificing once a year to them, they don't kill my livestock. You have a whole polite conversation. He goes, take care of yourself now. And you walk off. And I'm just minding my own business. I'm like, oh, there's Iverstead in the distance. And then all of a sudden, like, I freeze. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. And then the game just ends.
What you didn't know is that was a load-bearing ox, okay? That ox was load-bearing. So if anything happened to it, if you looked at it even, it would just disapparate and the whole game would explode.
Just, oh, God. It was not bueno.
I'm sorry.
Say that.
Well, to be fair, Murph, I think Skyrim is an affront to God. I don't think God ever intended for you to play it on anything past like 2016 graphics cards or consoles. And God himself is actually turning computers off. Like he's just smiting your rig.
I'm so sad because like I have such good memories of it, and I do enjoy it. Like when you I almost every time now I play an archer when I play Skyrim. So I'm just like, oh, fucking just murder.
I mean, there's that old meme of I want to play something, and then you just slide into stealth archer because it's the easiest thing.
It's the easiest thing to play because it's just fun and it murders everything. But I'm playing it and I'm just like, man, like I remember having so much fun. So it's half nostalgia and half like the game can really look good.
Yeah.
If you let it.
If you put in a couple hours work modding into it.
Yeah, like I just dropped like a couple of textures mods because like the Nexus community at this point has basically taken all the work out of it. It's just dropping into the mod manager and hit go. But like it looks good, it plays well. I'm getting like 200 frames a second because it's running on a potato essentially. And I'm just like, man, this is fun. And then I open a door, and then there's a guy stuck halfway in the wall, like sliding up and then bouncing around, and then the game crashes.
Look,
I'm just like,
he can fuck his house if he wants to. He bought that house fair and square.
There's the prison guard I was looking for. Glad that bug broke the game. And it reminds me of like when I played Cyberpunk for the first time. I'm like, I'm not seeing any problem. I don't understand what anybody's having issues with. It's a one mission specifically where you have to like attack this nightclub with this group of people, and you have to go talk to this lady, and she's talking, and she's just sitting at her desk, and you're having like this cutscene between you and her. And in the cutscene, she's supposed to stand up and like walk away from the desk, and instead what she does is she stands up, assumes the T-pose position, and just floats through the ceiling. And then like the
I am ascending into the atmosphere.
and she fucking disappears, and the characters just stop talking. I'm just sitting there like, all right, what am I supposed to
Well,
do?
damn,
Like,
if you don't want to
what
talk to me, just fucking say it.
And the problem is you can't
Jesus.
complete that section of the mission until a specific action happens. But in order for the action to trigger, she has to walk over to the window. So because she ascended into the stratosphere, I was just stuck in her room like,
Yeah. Well, Murph,
fuck,
you
the
should have
last
thought
time I
about
saved
that,
was,
okay?
like, 2
You
hours
should have planned on that. You should have planned on that when you bought the game,
man.
Cyberpunk
Oh, man.
2077.
I will tell you the one thing that I've realized, and something I've been spoiled by, and a lot of people argue that like graphics is the greatest improvement we've seen in gaming over the last 10 years, or if it's like, because I'm not going to say story, because we've always had good stories in games. We just have better mediums to put those stories through. So I'm not going to compare them on that. But they'll be like, oh, the graphics, like we have photo scanning of human beings, like Resident Evil 4 is made with real humans, and like look at this, and then like no, it's not just
Yeah,
graphics,
they
it's
in order to make
lighting.
the discs, they chopped up a bunch of humans.
Yeah, just get done.
Now made with
Like,
fresh
particle
humans.
scanned.
It's
What do they do, that
fine,
thing
I
where they do,
promise.
like the biopsy scans of people for cancer, except they just formed them in the virtual world. But they're talking about like no, it's not graphics, it's the lighting specifically. Lighting is what makes the games look better and stuff. You know what I found out that has increased exponentially that I'm actually spoiled by now in modern gaming?
What is that?
Audio.
Ah, yeah.
How good certain games have gotten, like realistic, even on like shitty headphones. Like whether you have the best like Bose flight control headphones all the way down to like the Dollar Tree Skull Candy in-ear buds. Like the way that they have designed audio is so much more realistic now. It's crazy. Like to be able to hear something whiz past your ear and it actually give the audio illusion that it's whizzing. And not just like there is a sound next to my ear. Like
That's what an arrow sounds like, by the way. It sounds like
it
sounds
actually
like a weird
clicks you
turkey.
as he comes by, and then it keeps going. No, it's just like I'm playing Skyrim, and I'm just like they'll be like, oh, and I'm like, where on my right is that coming from? So I'm like looking in the general direction of what we're, because there's no specifics. It's just to my right. And like I've played modern games where it's like I can tell you exactly where somebody's standing based off of how the audio hits your ear.
Yeah.
Like it bounces off of a wall into the kitchen from the kitchen, and I'm like, oh yeah, they're in the basement. Like you can hear them.
Murph, are you a bat?
No,
Do you echolocate?
I just have better hearing with tinnitus than I did without it, I guess. So it's again, that's my whole gripe. It's just like I've been spoiled by modern audio mechanics. So I know that the writer's strike is going on, and I appreciate them. But like, if they ever have like an audio designer strike, I'm gonna be fucked.
Yeah, because Murph really gets off on ASMR arrows.
No.
ASMR for Murph stands for arrows sexually being manipulated through the air. And I know those acronyms don't line up, but just don't think about it.
There's smaller parts of the acronym that people don't see after the R.
It's like fine text.
But that's it for me. That's what I was
Just
doing.
been playing Skyrim again.
That and ESO, because I got some people into that. What about
because you're a slut for ESO, Murph.
I like the lore. I don't
dislike the lore. The lore is great.
Speaking to Josh, and then Josh put me in my fucking place.
Yeah, you can't talk to Josh about ESO because
I'll be like, I found out
that's
this. Like,
that's his brand of obsession is ESO, or at least Elder Scrolls. I mean, the fact that I can put on some obscure track from Oblivion, he goes, "That's Ariel's Ascension."
Exactly this point after this man dies.
I'm like, damn, Josh.
If he plays this race, they make this quip, and you're like, okay.
That's pretty crazy. I don't know the names of those things. I've been playing. I beat Hollow Knight. I 100%ed it, as it were. As much as I like 80%ed it, because I'm not gonna play like the Iron Man mode or whatever. I've already beat the game like 40 times, 8 times. But it was good. I really liked it. I like that style of Metroidvania, hidden story type things where you don't know what's going on. It's enjoyable to me. It's kind of like got a Dark Souls feel to it. Currently playing Octopath Traveler because the second one is out and I never played the first one. So I'm playing that one. I think I've got 4 of the 8 companions, and I don't know what that means, but as far as progression wise, but I think there's a shit ton of stuff left. So We'll see.
Good.
It's very
Tears of the Kingdom
enjoyable.
dropped. I was going to ask if you were going to pick that up.
I have a copy, but I'm not going to be playing it just yet because I have a list. I have to get through my list. Okay, I got a very specific way of playing video games. Also, I played the hell out of Breath of the Wild already this year, and then I also played Link to the Past.
Hey, yeah, I remember watching you play that.
So I don't want to burn out on Zelda because she's magnificent.
Zelda.
We don't want to burn out on Zelda. Okay, she's a beautiful, beautiful twink boy who has a sword. We don't want to mess with them. But so I'll play it eventually. But I don't want to play it right now. I'm also like avoiding all social media about it, so don't spoil it if you know anything.
Because they're gonna say dumb shit.
All I know is that people have been crucifying Koroks, which is interesting to me because I think if you ever open the opportunity for anyone to commit a hate crime against a fantastical race,
yeah, it's not
they
just
will
hate
do
crimes.
it.
Like at this point, they'll do a war crime. They'll do
I saw a video of
hunting.
someone who like strung up a bunch of Koroks and then had them on like a rotating cylinder, and then there were two sets of flamethrowers on each side. And when they activated the cylinder, all the flamethrowers started jettisoning fire at the Koroks as they're spinning around. So it's like basically like a barbecue for Koroks. And the whole time they're making their little cute noises while they get incinerated. So not the best use of a game mechanic. Either way.
All I keep seeing is dicks. People just keep making.
Well, you know, Murph,
like,
penises are a cultural touchstone in society. You know, society has progressed past its current modernist age when you see a prevalence of penises. That's actually my autobiography, A Prevalence of Penises. It's like a Game of Thrones, a Shadow of Storms. It's
a Tale of Two Cities at this point, but it's with a day.
A plethora of penises. A prevalence of penises. The story of me.
A cacophony of cock, as some might call it.
Yes, indeed. But no, playing Octopath Traveler is very fun. I haven't played it's like that Final Fantasy CRPG style game that's not super fucking hard, but also not like cheesy easy, where it's like, this is stupid. There's no point in me playing it.
It ain't cheesy if it's easy.
But I like it. It's a very fun game. Anyway, Murph, let's get into the nitty gritty of it. We talk about there's a
don't mind me. I'm just
Murph. Murph behind you. There's an Aurora Borealis.
Aurora
Borealis.
Aurora.
Yeah. Also, it's localized entirely in your bedroom.
The entirety of the Aurora Borealis localized directly into your kitchen.
Absolutely.
Can I see it?
No. No. Steamed hams. Such a classic spoof.
One of my genuinely favorite things that they've done with that is it makes the blue outline make sense.
I like it. The aesthetic is very pleasing.
Reaches, but the one of the things they did with the steamed ham video is like they've done it 1,000 times. They've beaten that meme genuinely to death. But
they've beaten that meme meat.
Is the memesters meat. It's every 10 seconds it's a different animator doing a different style and a different joke, but it's the full thing of steamed hams. And at one point it's Metal Gear Solid, and he's crawling out of the window and he gets caught and he's like, Skinner, and it's like, that's the whole.
I am more entertained by how you cracked yourself up about imagining that.
I like that fucking joke. I'm sorry.
No, it's cool. It's just I don't know what you're talking about, and that was you. You had obviously seen the image in your head, and you were like, "Oh, this is funny."
It is quite enjoyable.
But no, we talk about on this podcast, Murph. We talk about a lot of things. In the past, we've talked about like socioeconomic factors that lead a society to crumble. We've talked about the right of the majority over the rights of the minority. We've discussed a lot of, and I think we've maybe solved at least 7 world issues. But today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. So did you have a question? Did you have a topic before I get into anything?
Today? No, because that's why breaking meta. I asked you that earlier. I was like, "Do you have any idea?"
Well, I never want to railroad anything. I'm very lackadaisical.
I'm excited for what's to come.
Does it sound different if I talk on this side?
I think you're
as
using a
opposed to this
cardboard mic,
side.
so it shouldn't change anything.
Okay, good. Yeah, no, I got a couple of topics. The issue with me bringing a topic is that I will then answer the question, which is a weird. Like I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, something I could discuss is how to work a meta narrative into just a series of adventures. You know, like how to string along a series of quests while bigger things are happening in the background that then lead into this apotheosis of aha, this is the grand plan. You know, the villain at the end monologuing for 12
It was
hours.
here all along.
So you ask that question and then I'll answer it. That way it doesn't sound like I'm talking to myself.
How explain the theorem behind weaving a meta narrative into a random slave adventure?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Murph. I'm glad you asked. Okay, because
How was one proposed?
well, first of all, that's a great wizard voice. If you ever play wizard, you should use that voice. Only that voice.
Yes. It's like half Nigel Thornberry. Like
Yeah, it really is.
John
Half,
Simon's
yeah,
impression.
half Nigel Thornberry, half Jar Jar Binks.
Bobby.
Oh no, it's Hank Hill. Anyway, Murph. So the interesting thing, because like last episode, not last week. Last week we talked about like how to create like buy-in and how to avoid burnout with player characters, with the dungeon master, you know, etc. And one thing that I specifically I think I talked about a lot was just interest, you know, like driving interest. And
Continue.
are you done? Are you done branding? Okay. Are you done fucking marketing your brand?
Look, I'm just saying it's smart of us to do so that they don't have to ask who's who. All right, I'm done.
Why would they ever think I'm Murph? Okay, look, I'm not Murph. I'm obviously not Murph.
It doesn't say. I'm just saying.
It doesn't state. I'm sorry. I'm John. He's Murph.
We didn't even do an intro today. We were just like, all
I
right,
did. I said hi.
You said hello.
I said hi. Welcome to the
This is us.
podcast. This is us. I mean, come on, Murph. This is episode 700. They should know us.
They should know.
But no. Yeah, I'm John. He's Murph. We talk about Dungeons and Dragons again.
Sorry. All right, please continue. We're actually gonna get into it.
So the key facet, right, of building a story is having an end goal, right? So when you have a like a quest, right? Like it's very simple. Like specifically, like there are at least I think 4. Sorry, you can see my fingers down here. 4 source books that have like random quests in them, right? Because there's some source books that have like full campaigns. Like Curse of Strahd starts you at level 3 and runs until like level 11 or 12, I think. And it tells the whole story of the Curse of Strahd in it, right? And there's no like
Jared Leto.
There's no like real end to it until you get to the end, right? Whereas like you look at like a book like Tales from the Yawning Portal has like 7 distinct stories in there that you can pull, and you can string them all back to back to back to back, or you can use them separately, or you can work them into your own campaign separately. Same with Candlekeep Mysteries, Ghosts of the Salt Marsh, the new one, Keys of the Golden Vault. Those all have like separate like quests, and they cover a specific set of levels, and they have like little like keynotes of how to work them into other things or how to string them along. So it's cool. So like when you're working with a like a homebrew campaign, a lot of it is like, okay, it's an MMO, right? Okay, so we're gonna go collect crushbone pelts from the orc raiders and then turn them into Jarvis, the gnome trader, and he'll give us 50 gold. And then we'll go and we'll collect bracelets and bring them back and sell them to Maleficent, the witch, and she'll give us a staff of power. You know, it gets kind of rote, you know? It's basically everything's a fetch quest. Because even if you work your story into it, and even if you work your characters into it, it gets to a point where it boils down to a fetch quest, you know, or go do this thing for me, and I will give you this thing like a job
for favor all the way through.
Yeah. Which is fine because like that's how society works. Like even in fantasy, people need things done, and will give you things to get those things done, so they don't have to do them to avoid. There's a convenience factor there. So when you look at driving a narrative forward, you have to create some other structure. You can't just like set your players in a city and go, all right, the innkeeper runs up to you and says, help, we've got an infestation of rats. I need you guys to deal with it. You look like you're the strongest people in here. That's a good like starter, right? Like that could be like a very easy way to get a group of people together and run them through combat. But then after that's done, okay, cool. Oh, like what happens? Like is like what is going on? Like you have to have some type of driving force that will connect your quests together, because otherwise it gets very dry. And then your downtime becomes basically just like a fast forwarded montage of doing nothing until I create another NPC to give you something else.
Insert thing here, yeah.
Yeah, and it can get very dry.
So on that, let me ask you this: Is it better? And I have a feeling I know what your answer would be, but I'm hoping you'll go off the rail here. Is it easier for you, or let's say from your perspective, for a new DM who is trying to figure out how to weave a narrative, but you have a group of people like how we played for the first time, Troy, Josh, and I. We've never played together. How do you explain why these characters together? It's a thing that's come up in conversation with us. Is it easier for you to say, okay, I'm going to genuinely shoehorn some things into the beginning and then let that be what kind of discovers how the rest of the story plays out? Or do you like to keep it open and just pray to God? Or would you recommend keeping it open and just kind of seeing? Because like my thought is like you have two styles in how you can do this. Be like, okay, even if you don't know who each other are as characters, like I have to bring you together somehow. So to be like the local night guard captain is like, there's things attacking the gate. I don't care. I'm not giving you a choice, either fight or die. And then like we all have to run out there and now we're doing a thing. And then that kind of builds the camaraderie of the stress of the situation. And then there we are. Or is it easier to be like, all right, you're in town. What the fuck are you doing? Like, hope you meet each other.
Yeah. I think that it really depends on your group, right? Like with... It's really subjective, but this is just what I'll just base it off my own experience, like what I would do with new characters, with new players. You do need to give them something. Like you can't just throw them out there and say, all right, you wake like the start of Legend of Zelda. You wake up. What do you do? Okay, now what do you do?
Congrats.
Okay, now what do you do? Oh, you see a really interesting drow across the street. Do you want to talk to them? Nope. Okay, cool. Okay, you wake up the next day. You see the same drow. Do you want to talk to them now? No. Okay, great. This is wonderful. You were playing 3 separate games. No, so what I specifically did with this campaign was I kind of let you guys do your separate things for a little bit, and then gave you reasons to come together. But what I really a really good example of how to do this well is the Monster of the Week system. The Monster of the Week system, your character sheet is 2 pieces of paper, and that's all you'll ever need. Because it's got all your level ups, it's got all your background, it's got your physical description, everything on 2 sheets of paper. You don't need a player handbook, you don't need a guidebook, you don't need a notebook. It's just 2 sheets of printer paper that it's got some words printed on it that you follow. It's very simple, very easy. I enjoy it. Part of that is like the setup of the story, like before you even start running mysteries, is each person selects a reason that they know the person to their left and their right. So each class or each playbook has a specific different set of questions. So like if I'm playing the wronged, which is a character that has been like subjected to a lot of trauma and they're on a quest for vengeance, etc. Their question might be, okay, how do I know the person to the left? They were someone that I ended up saving their life while on the hunt for the thing that murdered my family. Or they could be, the person on my right is actually a cultist of the monster that murdered my family. So it provides you with already reasons you would know each other that aren't necessarily great. The person across from me is a jilted lover that I had to break up with because my devotion to my job as a hunter of the paranormal overrides everything. So they could be really like awkward reasons you know people. They could be negative. They could be positive. But they provide you like right even before you start running mysteries an assumption of knowledge of the other people and an actual like grounded relationship that you can work off of, which is helpful. Now in D&D it's a little bit different. So like what I've heard of people doing and what I've not done myself is just starting people in a combat, like just saying, all right, we're backs to the wall in a sewer pit and you've got 6 zombies facing you. Roll initiative, because it creates like an assumed I've said assumed like 4 times now. I hate that. It creates like a presupposed notion that you know these people, and then you just work it out. Like, okay, how did I know you? How did I come to know you? With you guys specifically, Titus and Aramil met each other on the road, right? Like they were coming together, and because I wanted to start moving things along, and you had to miss a session, so we did a session 0.5 with them and then a session 0.5 with you, and it was separate, and then we came together at the tavern, and then basically through happenstance you guys were at this contracting firm at the same time, and they were like, hey, you need a group of 3 or more, and y'all were like, hey, we're 3 people, let's I guess be a group, which is fine, but then it begs the question of like, how do you develop those relationships in character? Because I think that's probably been one of the biggest struggle for you guys, is developing character relationships outside of the friendships that you have above the table, right? Like all of you guys are friends outside of playing D&D. Like you've known Troy for years, I've known you for a couple of years, and you and Josh are now boyfriends. In terms of,
send it to him.
I could give his full name and address, and that he's your boyfriend. That would be amazing. He would love me for that. No, Murph is happily engaged to a very lovely person, a very lovely lady, But no, so that has been the biggest struggle, is how do you guys create these relationships? And there's been a lot of work, there's been a lot of progress from like where we started, but there's still moments where you're kind of like, I don't fucking trust you. Like I don't know you. Like we met each other not even 6 months ago, and you are wanting me to put a lot of faith in your, like literally Aramil, who's a warlock, after like a long time finally like dropped that, you know, some things weren't adding up. Some things had been noticed by the party about his magics, and then finally he dropped the bomb. Yeah, I'm a warlock. I answer to someone else for my magic. And Irban was kind of like, the fuck, bro? Like, you gonna kill us if he tells you, like, you know, which was fine, because that's in
defense, like everything else that we faced that answered you.
No, that's exactly what Irban should, like if you're looking at Irban's motivations and his experiences and his actions, it makes sense for him to ask that question, like, bro, what the fuck? Like, I don't know you, so this is put another like little notch in the like column of trust or don't trust. So it does create interesting situations, but it also does not lend itself to an established rapport that you guys already have above the table inside of the world of Amorn. So it's a lot more interesting, and it's a lot more to work with, and I don't think it is the best option to take with new characters after having done this now, because I mean it's my firm belief that every time you DM a game, you learn like at least 20,000 things, even if you've run 60 games. Like, you're gonna learn a shit ton of stuff, and that's something I learned was, hey, with new players, just start them in combat and make them have a reason to know these people in their backstory, because otherwise it's kind of like it makes trust a big thing, and it makes it so that you spend a lot more time trying to think about your character's backstory than you really need to, in terms of like being a new character and worrying about that sort of thing.
Bringing that into real world situation, it's like what's going on with Josh now, with him DMing some side campaign that is both a prequel and also kind of standalone. It's the question of like, I know it's the same world, but it's world pre
everything,
big event, and so and we are being asked to choose, because in your campaign we are not following like alliances per se, or alignments.
Yes,
we're not
and that's honestly
more naturally to a character, and now we are introducing alignments, which I do not have a lot of experience with.
Yeah,
so I'm having to think of like, well, it's not just what would my character do, it's what would my character do based off of their alignment, which puts it more into a different perspective.
So here's the thing. I told Josh, I said you should run alignments, because I regret not having alignments. Like, I specifically have said this multiple times. This campaign, I wish I had instituted alliances or alignments at the beginning, because you don't need to worry about making choices based off your alignment. You need to worry about choices based off your background, which are based off your alignment. So if you're a hermit who is chaotic good, you're a hermit and you're chaotic good because of life experiences and because of your backstory. It's not like some video game where you just choose an alignment and then the choices you make have to fall into this alignment. It's, I feel as Irban Makana that I am a lawful good person. I want to do the best that I can for other people under the rule of law that I can, because Irban Makana was had a strict upbringing, and he respects the law, and he admires the government and all this other stuff. That's why he makes those choices. Not, I just picked this. I rolled a d8 and I picked an alignment. So now I have to do everything lawful good, and if it fucks everything up, fuck you, because I got an alignment. Like that's not the point of an alignment. Is that it draws from your backstory, and it draws from your character's previous experiences and life stories, as opposed to it's a end all by all rule that you have to ingratiate yourself into. Because that's why a lot of people have trouble playing evil characters, is because they go, oh, I have to want to kill everyone and murder everyone. And no, evil just means selfish. Like they place their own needs above the needs of other people, or maybe they place the needs of their very close friends above the needs of the world. So I heard it said that if you want to save the world, you want a good aligned character. If you want to save yourself and your friends, you want an evil aligned character, because the good character will sacrifice you to save the world, and the evil character will sacrifice the world to save you. So it's like one is not necessarily good or bad. One is just good and evil in terms of selfishness, and of course you can play more into the evil side of my motivations are world domination and destruction of everything. So I'm obviously evil. So I'm not only am I selfish, I'm also chaotic, and I'm also a blight against everyone that I see. And you can work that in your backstory as well. But an alignment is more of it's more of a lens through which you view things, not a strict hard line. I have to make every decision I make under the stress of worrying about my alignment. No, it's just a way of okay, an example. If we had alignments, it would have been a lot easier to determine why Titus did what he did during the the whole theft scene that we had a couple sessions ago. Because if he had picked chaotic good, okay, that makes sense, because he's not going to follow the rules of the law. He's going to do what he thinks is best for everyone around him, regardless of what the law says. And if that's what he justifies as, it's fine. As opposed to, especially for new players, because with new players, an alignment gives you kind of a guardrail to say, hey, how do I make this decision? Do I want to save this person, or do I want to avoid them and run into town to save a group of people? Well, I don't know. What would I do? I don't know. What's your alignment? What's your backstory? Who are you? Okay, I'm lawful good. So if I see a person in need, as opposed to I think there might be danger somewhere else, I'm just gonna stop right here. I'm gonna take care of the person I can see, because that is what I would do as a character, as opposed to, oh, hold on, let me look up lawful good. Okay, let's see. All right, lawful good means I can do this. It's not like a checklist. It's more like a I said a lens. It's like a lens.
So I guess my question would be how does that characters develop, right? So let's say you are neutral good. Mm-hmm. Right? You just, the idea is just to help people, whether it's law-abiding or not, just help people. Mm-hmm. But something happens. You help someone because that's what you do, and in return, instead of being, gracious, they're like, hey, you know what, because you helped me, I want to give you a gift. And that gift is they murder your whole family in front of you. Mm-hmm. Okay. Are you allowed to change alignments based off of experience? So
if it makes sense for the story, I mean, it's true. That's literally how I've run any game is, if it makes sense to the story, then I guess it's true, because why wouldn't it be? And now if it's they throw a pebble at my cart, and I fucking pull out my crossbow and I shoot them in the neck, and I cast fireball on the church, and it's no, that doesn't make sense. All they did was da-da-da.
My thought has always been and again, this is based off of what little experiences I had, is that alignments were stuck to. And the way that they would talk about alignment is that you can't make a decision. Your character cannot develop in a specific way, because that is not their alignment. Well, and your backstory is the be all end all. Mm-hmm. And I'm
and the reason we get that is from video games, right? When you create a character in a lot of these CRPGs and stuff like that, and you pick an alignment, it locks you out of a lot of dialogue options. That's story based. If I pick Pillars of Eternity, if you pick certain classes, certain races, certain alignments, and you develop certain character trait, they don't have alignments, they have character traits. So you can if you pick enough clever tagged options, eventually you get points in being clever, and that unlocks other dialogue options later on. So like you can block yourself out of things too by like, okay, I'm clever, so I say this, but I probably shouldn't have said that, just to kind of keep your character on track. It's a video game, so obviously there is like a set story that you are being railroaded into, which is fine.
At the same time, there's a roadmap you have to
follow. Which is fine because it's a video game. It's not an AI. It's not gonna like take every choice you make.
The narrative.
Yeah. But so when it comes to people who pick alignments in Dungeons and Dragons, there is a lot of misconception of, all right, this person literally just murdered my wife, but I'm lawful good, so I forgive them, I guess, but I don't want to forgive them. Okay, then don't forgive them. Take that and turn it into hatred and become chaotic good. Like you're now an angel of death that you visit upon, like you're Batman. You know, you don't follow the law. You catch people who the law can't catch, etc., etc., etc. You know, as long as you work it into your backstory, you can have shifts. And the Pathfinder game, the new one and the old one, Pathfinder Kingmaker and Pathfinder. The Crusade, something, I don't know. I've played so much. Actually, it's in my Steam library. Let me find it. Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. They have a cool alignment in that you pick your alignment at the start of your character creation, and then as you make choices, it's like a circle, and so it's got good, evil, chaotic, lawful, neutral, and like if you pick lawful good, right, you're over here in this quadrant. As you make choices, your dot moves. So if you make enough lawful evil choices, you slowly start to come down the graph and end up over here. And then new dialogue options open up. Or if you start moving more towards neutral, your dot comes over here. And more like it changes the way people interact with you, which I think is like really intuitive and cool because that's realistically what an alignment is it's like a guideline, but it's not a hard law. Like now it is. Now there are some class mechanics because paladins and clerics all worship a deity that embodies an alignment, right? So like if I worship Tiamat, the dragon aspect, who's canonically like very chaotic evil, then as a paladin, like if I'm a cleric who worships her and I'm a cleric of death or a cleric of war or something who worships Tiamat, I'm probably a chaotic evil person, and if I'm a cleric, it's probably my backstory that I am chaotic evil, and there wouldn't be a lot of reasons that I would stop worshiping Tiamat unless like some revelation occurred and something like that, because Tiamat's only going to attract certain types of people, so it wouldn't make sense in my backstory to necessarily keep making chaotic good choices unless there was some very specific backstory reason, right? So in terms of like mechanics, there are specific times where you really need to consider your class and your backstory to make sure that like if you're a paladin who took an oath of what's a good like an oath of valor for the god of courage or something, that if you keep making cowardly choices, you might break your oath and you might become an oathbreaker paladin instead, or your cleric might lose their domain spells and slide into another domain because they're obviously not embodying their god, so why would their god give them powers? It's kind of like the warlock. If you don't do what your patron asks, you're not going to get your powers. That's just how it is. That's how the game mechanic works. So there are specific times where you really need to consider your alignment. But again, if it makes sense for your paladin to go from being an oath of conquest to an oath of guardians, okay, why not? I mean, like Titus changed his whole subclass because it made sense. And I've offered that to multiple people multiple times during campaigns is, hey, if something makes sense, I'm not going to stop you from doing it, right? I'm not going to say, no, you cannot change your subclass because that is not something I want to deal with. I'm going to go, okay, well, make it make sense to me. In the story, how does this figure in? If Ben all of a sudden goes, you know what, I give up the ways of a samurai, I want to be a rune knight or an eldritch knight or something like that, I'd be like, okay, why? Like, you can't just want it. You need to give me.
I woke up one day.
Just because I was like, you know what, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of like having good persuasion and also attacking a bunch. I'm just tired of that. I don't want to do it.
So he gets old instantly and dies.
Yeah, exactly. No, but so like with Titus, it made sense because like he had this construct and he had a lot of like reasons to move subclasses over as an alchemist or as an artificer into the battlesmith from the artillerist. So it makes sense. And I've offered Aramil multiple options to change his subclass with all these different patrons I keep throwing at him, and he's cool. He says, no, I'm good, I'm gonna keep doing this guy. I'm like, okay, great, I'm gonna keep doing it, because it'd be funny as hell if you take them up on their deal. Just because some chaos is intriguing to me. But yeah, so alignments, they're not super important. They're very helpful for first time players, and they're extremely helpful for first time DMs, because your DM is always going to feel weird saying, are you sure you want to do that, if you don't have an alignment to follow? And it sets awkward conversations up a lot better when you can say, all right, well, your alignment is neutral good. So are you sure you want to behead the gnome that literally just walked across the street? Are you like make it make sense? And then it pulls reasons and it pulls stories out of people, as opposed to just, I'm a murder hobo, bitch, I'm just going to kill these people. Why?
Murder hobo.
Why? And
I'm so glad that we haven't had that yet.
Yeah, me too.
We have not murder hoboed. Thank fuck.
But does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not that it doesn't make sense. It's that I have a quelled fear.
Yeah.
Of restriction, because the point of D&D, the lore to it, to me, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, has always been the freedom of choice within reason. Like, I'm not going to be like, I wish to be Superman today, and here's why, and you're not just going to be like, okay, sure. Mm-hmm. I have a motivation based off something that might seem completely minuscule to someone else.
Yeah. Like
a choice that was made, like, trying to think of a specific example, like with Aramil, or with Titus drowning that lady in the river.
Yeah.
In the Undercroft. So like in the Underdark, he's drowning her, and sailor background. So like watching that could have triggered something like that. You don't do that. Like life is sacred in the sense, and like the water is there for specific reason. You don't drown someone purposely. And that choice could be there. And I come to you and be like, hey man, I want to start a grudge against Titus because he just drowned someone, and that really does not settle well with Ben. Yeah. And then you could be like, okay, that makes sense, right? Alignment to me sometimes scares me, because like I could be like, again, like neutral good, and you'd be like, well, okay, yes, I can understand why you'd say that, but does that fit this a lot? And that's the thing, is like sometimes I get worried that,
and that's why it's there.
Motivation might not be.
Yeah, and that's why it's there. It's there to create a deeper conversation. Because if I ask, okay, does that make sense? Then you can say yes, because Irben has specifically had instances where he watched his, abusive captain drown wayward soldiers or sailors, and even though he's like neutral good and doesn't normally take actions, this really sticks out to him. I'd be like, okay, great. And then we've unlocked like a little bit of your backstory. Like we've created a little bit of story to Ben, so that now, okay, we know his captain was abusive, and we know that he sometimes maybe he drank too much and somebody rubbed him the wrong way, and he was like, I'm not going to drown him, I'm going to waterboard him, and they accidentally drowned. It creates instances where you can have those conversations, and anytime you have a conversation about a character, there's almost always a little nugget of story that comes out. Like there's always a little decision. Like your characters are not created with sprawling massive backstories. They're created with little tiny thoughts and choices. Like when I ask, that's why I always ask, what's the name? Like whenever they say, like anytime during the quiet year, anyone created anything, I'm like, what's its name? What's the name of this strange monkey lemur creature who brought us fruit? Okay, what's the name of this sickness that's making everyone go blind? Like because even in just like asking that one question, just a little simple like name, it creates something in the mind to where it's like, oh, that's interesting. Let me remember that. And so like when you have these decisions as a player and things happen and things occur, and you're like, huh, Ben doesn't like this. Well, why doesn't Ben like this? Oh, story time. This is the thing. Story time. Yeah. So then it creates a whole new, not even new, but just something that no one knew. It's unearthed, as it were. And that's what I really like, because it's like when I create characters, I don't create huge, sprawling 10-page backstories that span the length of their lives of 35 years, and then we just stop right when we start the campaign. No, I pick a couple, I go through like the ideals, bonds, traits, and flaws, and I sometimes pick sometimes I make my own. It really depends. And then I say, all right, what's some like key relationships he has? What's some key if someone asked Henry about himself, what would he say? What were the facts that he would say? It's like, hey, like the way I imagine it is like, what if I interviewed this character? And the questions I would ask was like, tell me about yourself. What's something you're proud of? What's something you're ashamed of? What do you love most, or who do you love most? Like, just getting like general information. And then I like leaving it open-ended, because when you have these instances where you have like conflict or reward, or you see things, you have these options to make choices that fill in a little bit of that backstory, you know, like you've got, imagine like a whole page and you filled in like 2 or 3 sentences, and then as you play the campaign, you're writing in that whole fucking paragraph of like who this person is. And I like that, because then at the end of a campaign, you have created this character, both in the terms of the journey that you've taken from level 1 to 20, and in the past life that you didn't even know he lived. Like when we started with Ben, Aramel, and Titus, no one really had like a huge amount of backstory, except maybe you had a lot more than most, I would imagine. You had written a good amount, but even then, there's like decisions you've made along the way that are completely new to both you and I about like Irben, like his propensity to drink when he has problems. Like that's like a choice you made, and that's what we go with. Like, okay, great. Or the fact that you know, he's taken up this sort of kinship with the halfling tavern owner. Like that was a choice you made. Like, hey, I'm kind of endeared to this man, as opposed to I want to shun him for hiding information from me. Like these are choices you're making that influence both the future and the past, so that when you ask a hard choice, you either have the option to say I don't know, or you can just say let's make it up. And that's why I like leaving a lot of empty space on a backstory, because I like having that freedom, even with an alignment, having that freedom to say, you know what, he would do that, and here's why, blah 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 blah, or he wouldn't do that, and here's why, like 2 sentences. You know, it just creates a level of freedom, and it I think best usually when a question is asked of me that I don't know, because I'm like, well, if it's like creative wise, like not if it's like on a test, like that's terrible. I don't know what, you know, 12 times 90 is. But like, you know, what else is there to do in the city was a question that Troy asked me, and I was like, I don't know. Let's fucking come up with something. There's an enchanter shop. This is cool, and it's government run, so it's kind of like the DMV. Sometimes it's open, sometimes it's closed. They take a long time, but they do vital work occasionally, and it's important to check in every once in a while. So you know, that was a whole made up thing. You know, it wasn't even something I had ever put in the city. So it's interesting. Or like I want to live on the boat. Cool. Why not? Go live on the boat, Irben. Like that's fun, you know. So it allows such freedom to have a character where you don't have like a huge amount of backstory. But I understand why people do it, because you want to be prepared. Like when I started writing the campaign, I was like, I want this to be the beginning, middle, and end. And I want this to be the meta narrative that weaves throughout, and these are the chapters and these are the arcs. And I can't tell you how many times I've just scrapped like whole chapters, like just like, nope, we're not gonna do this. This doesn't make sense anymore. Nope, I don't know why I was thinking this. And like I'll reread shit that I've put in, and I'm like, this is terrible. This is absolutely dog shit writing. Why did I put this in this notebook? Like, no, this is not good. Like I've literally, like for this next arc, there's a main antagonist. I changed him last week. I was like, this doesn't make sense. I'm changing it. It's done. You know, like
it doesn't help that every time you present like a main enemy for us to fight, we go, now how can we keep them alive?
That's true. Which is fine.
How do we keep them? Because I was able to convince what's his name last time.
Which is fine, but like when you leave those holes in either your backstory or your narrative that you're weaving, it allows for freedom of flexibility. When you don't leave those holes, you get that sort of like, this isn't what I wanted. This isn't the story I wrote. This isn't my backstory. I don't like this. And you kind of bow up. You get stubborn. You get prideful, because I mean, you've written this story. You want people to follow the story. Just read the fucking story. But it's not. It's not a read the fucking story. It's not a
script.
It's a create the collaborative. Play in the space with me. You know, help me build this thing. Because it is a teamwork effort, which some people just aren't necessarily well programmed to manage. But I think I really like that. Like that's why I love playing characters, is because there's such freedom in writing 5 sentences and then constantly going, well, what would this character do? I don't this is what he does, and this is why he does it. And then I write a little note. Hey, he is this. He did this because, like, I don't have it with me, but I've made a couple character sheets for this campaign that Josh is going to run because I have an amount of characters that I'd like to play. But it will depend on what everyone else plays, because like being someone who's played a lot before, I don't want to pick a class and then be like, oh, I wanted that, because I can literally play anything. Like, I don't give a fuck. And I also want the party to be well balanced. So I've got a support, I've got a striker, and I've got a tank, I've got a striker, and I've got a healer or a support class that I'll play depending on
DPS or tank.
Yeah, and they're all characters I'm very heavily invested in and I'm very interested in, and I think will be really fun to play.
That's the only downside to MMO, not even MMOs, it's RPG mechanics. The thing with multiplayer RPGs is that there's a way you want to play, and then there's a way that tactically you should play as a group.
Yeah.
And
but see, I am so excited.
Things, it's like, yeah, but you shit as DPS, but you're playing you were the worst DPS tank combo.
But see, I'm so excited to play as a character, because I haven't played a character in 6 years, maybe longer. Really? Yeah, because I'm a forever DM. People learn I am a DM, and they go, "Oh, DM for us," and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna need this, and this. Have them to me in a week. Not that I don't love it. Not that I don't love being. Don't get me wrong. I love being a DM.
But what? So segue into this with me. What stops a DM from playing a character?
Control. I like controlling things, and I like writing stories. And sometimes being a player can feel so small and infinitesimal that it doesn't matter. And when you have it's like drinking. It feels great. And it's wonderful, and then sometimes you don't feel so great afterwards. That's kind of like being a DM is. It's like, oh my god, this is awesome. I'm so fucking high on this creativity streak, and then the next week it's like, fuck, they did this. I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do. I've been staring at this blank sheet of paper for 2 hours in this coffee shop. So it's like, but I love that. I like the challenge, and I enjoy it. So then, like, coming in with playing a character, it's like, man, I have no agency here. I'm one person. I'm one character, and I can't add advantage or add disadvantage, and I can't do any of these things I'm used to doing. I have to just sit in this little box and play this one character, which is honestly something I took for granted, like, because I started out as a DM, and then there were a couple of campaigns where I was a player, and I really took for granted. I was like, man, I miss being a DM. This fucking sucks. I want to go back to being a DM. And now, after having been a DM almost exclusively for a while, I'm like, man, I really want to just play a character for just like a one-off.
Just turn your brain off and play for the sake of.
And not even like turn my brain off. I sat here and I've got like 9 characters in my D&D Beyond like character list of just that I've created in the last 2 weeks of like, oh, this would be interesting. I wonder about this. Like, oh, this would be kind of cool. Let me try this like combo. Because I don't really, to me, it's not about class or race. To me, it's about the story of the character that I can get invested in. Like, I can play. Now, I usually lean to spellcasters just because I'm a fucking nerd, and if I'm going to play in a fantasy setting, let me cast Fireball, right? Like, why would I want to be a fighter, fucker? No, but fighters have some really cool mechanics, and honestly,
see, that's the thing. I can relate to it. And
some of the best subclasses are in fighter. Like, Eldritch Knight is really fucking cool. Samurai is like one of the heaviest strikers in the game in terms of like
attacks. By the end, you just
in terms of raw damage output. It's wonderful. So like it's like.
You just have to have a weapon and a roll that garbage.
But
I will tell you this, like secret time. I thought about when you offered changing of subclass. I really thought about Eldritch Knight. Like, I was like, how cool would it be to find out that secretly, like, there was something guiding Urban here, and it wasn't his mom. Like, that's the thing. But
I mean, we could do it. We can do multi-classing. We can do changing subclasses. I don't ever give a fuck, because again, like I said, with playing characters, all I care about is the story, Murph. I don't care about the mechanics of the game so much, as long as we follow the rules to as well as we can. I don't really care about what classes and races everyone picks. I just like the story, and I like that I can tell a story with people that I like and I care about, and I like that they can get so invested in the story that when some minor NPC dies, I thought everyone's like, fuck, not him, and it's just like somber moment for the entire rest of the session.
Well, I mean, if you'd killed, I don't know, something fucking random ass, like one of the fairies from the fucking tavern would be like, I mean, no, I'm
Oh,
sorry,
dang.
but like you happen to kill someone that like we have interacted with
At least, yeah,
consistently.
yeah. Which is
He's
interesting.
attempted to help us in multiple instances. So.
But no, I specifically, generally, just play for stories. Like my character specifically. Like I don't like I create a story in my mind of like who I want this person to be, and then I try to fit like a class and a race around it. Like, okay, this person is high up in the clergy, and I would like for them to be deceitful about it. I want them to have a secret. Okay, so what it's going to be is it's going to be a warlock, and they're gonna actually pretend to be a paladin. Because they don't want everyone to know that they get their powers from a fiend that they made a deal with 20 years ago.
Play a paladin, but you're actually a warlock?
You play, yeah. Mm-hmm. So like every time you cast a spell, you have to like make sure that either no one sees it or that like you deceive them. You know, that sort of thing. And which I think this has technically been done. I think in Dimension 20 there's a character in like the 4th season who's a warlock and pretends to be a cleric. So like he casts spells, and then I think he has to like make deception checks constantly, which is fun. That's just a cool idea to me.
Remind me not in podcast. I have some questions about that because like that has given me some ideas for the character I've been working on for this new campaign, and I want to run the, unless you want me to ask here so that other people can
go ahead and ask it, Murph.
Ask it, bro. I have been constantly on the idea of playing a changeling because I like the idea of the shape shifting. I think that within reason is a cool, especially having now met one in campaign.
Yeah.
So my question is like, I would love to play a changeling that is a rogue, but doesn't want to be. Like the idea is like when you have skills like they have, they get shoehorned into specific professions because how else can, like, what else do you do to make a living that people are going to trust? So you find yourself within certain circles and you don't have a.
So you're like, you're kind of just like, you have to fucking deal with it. It's like no one else trusts you because you're a changeling and they already assume that you're a shifty fucking traitor. So might as well be one.
Yeah,
but you can play that with 2 angles, which is really cool. You can play that as like the spiteful rogue who's like, you know what? I've been told for years I'm a rogue. I'm gonna be the best fucking assassin, and I'm gonna laugh on their corpses. Or you can be like, man, I really need to pray today because I have to go and I have to steal money from someone.
It's like, or like the idea of it's like
I've always just wanted to be a singer and no one trusts me.
That was literally my joke. Is that I was like, but I think the character's true passion would have been to been an entertainer.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to do a one-man show.
But every time you would pull the loot out, everyone would clutch their purses because they're worried you're going to steal their money.
They think that they think that it's
that's
like,
really cool.
Like the idea that you have like a character.
And on top of that, rogues deal a shit ton of damage.
Yeah, well, it's just like, but like, I want them to not be good at it.
Yeah.
And that's the character is like they're a rogue, but no one ever said they were a good rogue. They're a rogue because people keep assuming they're a rogue.
Yeah.
They're like, what is your background? I was in fucking I was a bard at the Bard's College. Like, I flunked out because I can't play a lute. I played percussion, and some dude was like, "You would probably be good at lockpicking."
Or you could flip it on its head and say, like they're so pissed off because not only do people assume they're a rogue, they're also really good at being a rogue. Like, they hate how good they are at sneaking up on people and stealing their coin purses.
He's like, I'm not going to be able to get this lock. And then he just does it, and he's like,
damn it, I hate my fucking life. I am so good at this. I hate it.
One of those, like, the joke would be that, like, somewhere in their lineage, there was a rogue that was well known that they are descended from, and they just have latent talent in it that they don't want.
There's
like,
enough.
All I want to do is raise chickens.
There's enough
like, what a waste.
freedom of flexibility with rogue subclasses that you don't even have to be like a sneak thief or an assassin. Like, they've got the Inquisitive, who's like really good at like investigating and figuring stuff out. There's the Mastermind, who's good at like pulling the strings and shit. There's the Swashbuckler. The Swashbuckler is basically
a rogue.
Yeah, the Swashbuckler is a rogue. They're kind of like the pirate sort of archetype. Yeah,
I'd have to stay away from that one because I did the sailor. I'm not trying to be a sailor.
Nothing wrong with that. It's more about an attitude than it is a profession.
I've got to ask Josh whether or not, because I had an idea for before this moment. I was going to do a ranger, but I don't know about what life is prior to the quiet year necessarily, because we're taking place like well before that. I don't know what the standing armies are, because I've always wanted to play a scout. So it would be like, oh, I was a scout for one of the local in the local Inquisition. Fuck it, and then it's like and then I'm here with you fucks now.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, that's no problem with that.
My character backstory is I'm terrified that I'm AWOL.
Yeah.
All times because I haven't been able to report in, but I don't have a choice.
Yeah, nobody knows where you're at because you can't get a hold of them anyway. But yeah, so like that's what I'm saying. Like create a story and then pick a class and then a race.
Just fucking God, I cannot imagine. Like, what's your story?
Or don't. I mean, honestly, it's a fucking game. So if you really want to play a wizard, pick a wizard. Play an elf wizard.
We talked about this. Like one of our first episodes was you and I created a character, and I went off on like a 20-minute tangent of what their backstory. Mm-hmm. I love the backstory creation.
Yeah,
because it can go from like deep and like this is a real thing to like this is Dildo Baggins.
Yeah,
the halfling with the 30-inch sword that looks like a dick.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
He only has this because he is a warlock and his patron is an asshole.
Yeah, his patron makes him use it every time.
If he doesn't hold it at all times.
And then like. They even have like Xanathar's Guide to Everything has in the back of it like numerous tables of just random backstories that you can generate.
Yeah,
or you can just pick them. You can just look at there and like say, all right, I want this. And they've got like why did you become your class? Why did you become your background? What happened to your parents? Did you have a spouse? Did you have kids? Did you have siblings? What big life events did you have? Have you gone on other quests before? Do you have special quirks? Like there's there's so many ideas there. Like I don't usually tend to pick those, but I do look through them sometimes. I'm like, this would be interesting. Let's put it on this and let's figure this out.
With that, I mean, in something that you had mentioned earlier to kind of, because again, this is what the whole point is to ask as dumb questions as possible. You had mentioned that there was the character that plays a paladin, but they're actually a warlock. How does one go about doing that in deceit from the beginning? Like obviously the DM would know, and the player.
Oh, the players would know. I mean, you have to tell the players at the table. Yeah.
Okay, so that's my question.
Whenever there's a big deceit, you really need everyone to be in on it, because otherwise it kind of feels shitty. Because like you can pretend your characters don't know very easily. Like I had no clue. Like how we kind of have already done it. Like everyone knows that Josh's character is a warlock, but no one in game knows that he's a warlock, right? Until just recently.
But like, is there not a way? I mean, other than for the DM to like for there to be like a revelation kind of thing. Like let me put in perspective. It's a changeling, but the changeling has felt like a lot of prejudice in their life, so they decide that they are only ever going to be this let's go satyr friend that they had. So they at all times look like that satyr.
Yeah.
They introduce themselves to the cast as the satyr.
Yeah.
They present themselves as the satyr. Their backstory is a satyr. But then like later on they're being tortured for some reason and it comes out, oh, by the way, your satyr friend was never actually a satyr. They were a changeling the whole time. Like they were never... Is that worth revealing if it doesn't... Like, or should those kind of moments be kept between the DM and the player so that the reveal is like, oh wow, that's okay. Because like for the narrative like authentication, I guess, like the authenticity of the reveal, because that's questions I have as like a storyteller, is like, for you the DM, is it worth it to keep those to the chest, or is that another one of those like, no, all players need to know so that it doesn't feel like why is this person playing their character like weird as fuck, like it doesn't make sense.
Two things. One, sorry, I'm just ordering food real quick.
No, you're fine.
Second, I have never... Oh, God damn it. I have never been a fan of keeping secrets from players. It's just not my style. I'm not a fan of having, unless it's like, hey, this is the story, and obviously you wouldn't know it, so I'm not going to tell you.
Well, didn't you mention once like of like having everybody write down like at the beginning of a campaign like their biggest, like they write a secret about themselves, and then you hand it in, and then at certain points you're at a tavern and you read one out loud, but nobody knows whose they are.
There's a mechanic with like Rime of the Frost Maiden where you hand out like cards at the beginning of the game, and each one has like a special secret, like, oh, you actually are infested with a death slod, or you are actually a spy. Bada, 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 bada. So, but then I usually like the other people know that, their characters don't, but their people do, because like it just. To me, it's more fun to have everyone at the table like kind of waiting, like waiting for this big reveal. Like, oh, when is it gonna happen? When is it gonna happen? When is it gonna happen? But also, I like putting the pressure on them to act like it, like act like your characters don't know.
But
like,
that's you as a director.
Be a man, because like I don't think that
to sow distrust. Like if you hand someone a card and you're like, you were going to betray and attempt to murder one of your companions and no one's allowed to know. So at any point they have no idea this betrayal is going to come, and it deals that much big of like it's that much more weighty when it happens. Then at some point I know this asshole is going to try to kill one of us. Like,
no,
because I feel like especially for new players there's an accidental need to metagame. Oh well, if he's going to try to kill me,
well I think the opposite occurs. I think people get annoyed. It's like, well, why didn't we know this? Like why didn't we know that? Like if this whole time Aramel hadn't been a warlock, and we had been like secretly leveling him up without you guys knowing, and I had been secretly talking to him about his invocations and stuff, it would have been kind of needless, because even without you guys knowing he was a warlock, you guys still acted like you didn't, and it went fine. Like I think that.
Right. Well, I mean, but that's my.
I don't like ever keeping any secrets player related off the table if I'm the one who knows them, because it makes it feel weird. It's like, okay, I have to couch what I'm saying, and I have to watch out that I don't accidentally reveal that I know this about this person. They don't want anyone else to know. Like if there's like backstories that just aren't revealed, that's fine. But like I don't see a point in saying, all right, I'm playing a paladin, everyone. I'm playing a paladin, yeah, and I cast a spell that shoots a force of dark energy out of my hand. Is that Eldritch Blast? No, it's not Eldritch Blast. It's a smite spell that you're not familiar with.
Yeah, but because
it's like,
call this preference.
Like, what's the point?
At the same time, though, they'd be like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. You can't do that. And then the DM would be like, no, there's a reason. And you're like, oh, okay.
Well, then I have to lie. Then I specifically would have to lie.
Players,
I'm not gonna lie.
This is one of those things where it's just like, I understand where you're coming from, and I respect why you do that. But like, I love the idea that the reveal is just as big a deal for me as it is for you to present it. Like how we didn't know that Stuart was going to die is a big reveal, so there's an emotional blowback to it because nobody saw it coming.
Mm-hmm.
And if we all know that at least one character, like if you were like, this is my buddy Steve, he's going to sit on for this session, and just to disclose, his character is going to die because he's only playing for one session. Well, then what's the point of us like faking our way into pretending we give a shit about that character if we know he's going to die at the end of the session? Like,
I can see that.
We'll be cordial and like, no, but like if you were like, hey, this is an important character and he's with us for like 2 sessions, but then like we know it's short term, so we know something's going to happen. We just don't know what, because like he could ride off into the sunset, he could marry my sister, he could like it could be anything. He'd be turned into an NPC, and then you kill him. We're gonna be like, oh, well, shit. You know, like that kind of revealed to me as the person participating, but also was like, if I was DM storytelling, that to me would be fun because it's like nobody wants to play fantasy to replicate life, but
True.
There is a joy in the spontaneity of life. Like you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know why it's happening. People aren't honest. People aren't going to tell you the truth all the time. People are going to fuck you over. Like these are things. And a lot of it is based off the roll of the die, but like you do as a player and you specifically as a DM have the power to let, like information is key and you are the ultimate holder of information. Everything must go through you. You are essentially God.
Mm-hmm.
And in that sense, like, again, respecting your opinion on why you don't want to do that, because you also don't want there to be like some level of distrust between the player and you going like, oh, well, fuck you, because like then I could have done other but like you also, like, again, especially in an age where metagaming is like huge, like if you look at the D&D subreddit, if you look at the D&D Twitter, like people are constantly talking about players ruining experiences for people because they've seen other people like min-max builders and all this shit, and then they're like, and then I'm secretly the evil lord. And it's like, well, everybody knew because you've been min-max building the entire fucking time. Like, we fucking... So, like, I like the challenge it puts on you. I'm going to refer to them as actors, as a character, because, like, you have to be able to be the character you want. You have to think more like your character if you have something to lose if they find out about you. If everyone already knows, then it's just, how can I convincingly make the story make sense to what I'm doing, which is half the battle. But if I'm like, shit, I can't use this move in combat because it would break the idea that I'm doing this outside of the narrative.
Well, I think if you play your character right, it's still high stakes, because like, okay, let's use the example of this character I'm thinking of. Like their whole job is based on the fact that they are connected to this god, and they are, you know, the head of a church or an abbey in this village. So if it's revealed that they get their dark powers from a fiend, they would be out of a job. So like okay, I have to now secretly cast this, not because I'm worried that people above the table will find out and they'll metagame, but no, because like if somebody sees me cast Hellish Rebuke, they're gonna go, wait, that's not holy fire. That's like infernal fire. Like it is black smoke. Like this is terrible. You're out of a job. You're cast out from society because it's in my character's background that he needs to be liked. He needs to be included in everything, and he needs to have this position of power because it's the only thing that's really keeping him grounded to anything. Otherwise, he just like float around like a plastic bag. But I think that there's advantages and disadvantages maybe to both. But just as my own personal style, I'm not going to intentionally keep things from a player. And I'm also not just I don't lie. Like I'm not going to lie to characters. It's just not for me.
Yeah. And I think the base all of my statement is, and this is what the point of the podcast is like, take from it what you will and make your decisions.
Yeah.
My thought is just like, in that instance, if you were like, I am the leader of a church in a small village and I want to assist something that's happening, but what's more important to my character? Assisting or keeping
my super
position?
secret?
So like, do you even help in the first place, or do you come up with an excuse not to? Yeah. And in those choices, like if you're like, I'm being forced into combat, I have to make split decisions. I can use the baseline of help that I possibly can and come off incredibly weak, which would be strange for a person of my position.
Exactly.
Or I can do the thing that's actually going to help, which would 90% chance reveal, unless the gods align the stars and all your rolls are great for decisions.
All that stuff.
But like, but the thing is like when you are not letting other people know, you are forced into having to think like that, or you're just going to fuck up. If everyone knows, you have to be more conscious to make that happen and not just go with, well, they already know, so they're just going to let me get away with doing this because the story dictates that they don't know.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And that's my thought. And,
and again, I can see that.
This is the difference between like a Quentin Tarantino film and Francis Ford Coppola. Like that's the thing though, is like directing style is everything. The style of the campaign is based off the trust between the person directing it and the players playing. And that's the whole thing, is like you and I would have different directorial choices based off of how we play the campaign. But that doesn't mean one's better than the other. Yours is more practiced than anything I would do, which means that yours is tried and true and would probably work easier.
True.
But again, that's why I asked those questions, is because it's just like, for you as a DM, like, because it was a matter of preference. Like, do you prefer for people to know, or do you prefer for people not to know? And in your opinion, it is easier for people to know, because then if somebody fucks up, you're not having to spend 2.5 hours explaining.
Yeah, it creates
a 3 sessions.
Yeah, actually, this has been happening.
And you're not having to be like, well, was there anything else that you weren't telling us? And be like, well, then you can either do one of two things. The Dr. Evil, I guess you're going to have to find out. Or like,
I'm playing coy.
You're going to be like, yeah, actually, there's more shit going on. But like, that's the thing about it. And that's ultimately why I love D&D as much, is because there is no right answer. There's a preferred answer, and majority of people may swing one way or the other. But there's not like a...
It's not like a... always has to be this, always 100%.
There's not like a DM institute that you have to go to be like, I revoke your license.
There actually is, Murph, and the reason you don't know about it is because you're not a DM. Sorry.
You know what? I would pay good money to go to a DM workshop.
I would not. I would not want to go to school.
Be interesting
I don't think so.
Like
there's a bunch of free shit online. I don't know why. Like literally Dimension 20, Brendan Lee Mulligan has it's called shit. What is it called?
Called a shit.
Okay, there's a thing that Brendan Lee Mulligan does where he brings like very famous D&D players like Matthew Mercer or Griffin McElroy, or people who are like known in the community, and he asks them like about a topic, and they talk.
Like a panel.
Yeah, and they teach about this one thing. Like, you know, one time they spent a whole episode talking about like criticals, like critical failures and critical successes. What does that mean? And it's free on YouTube. So I would not pay.
See, that's cool. So I'm not saying, but I would like like if there was like a D&D con, but instead of it just being like a group of, I'm going to call this what we are, a bunch of nerds just coming together and hanging out and
I mean, you're not wrong.
It would be cool to go to a thing like a conference, and it's like we have like the most notable podcast DMs that we can find. Like we have people from Wizards of the Coast here. Like this is like, they do workshops. Like, do you find yourself lacking in character development for NPCs? There's a workshop for that. Do you have a problem when it comes to balancing your players' character backstories into the overall narrative without it feeling shoehorned? There's a workshop for that. Like, it would be cool, like as a group of friends, to go to an event that's not just about like, you can buy a $7,000 figure here or something, but like actually go, and it's for the betterment of people trying to not only understand the source material, but to meet with people who have similar interests but also similar concerns about how they play, and then find out people's opinions and like go to it. Because like every time you see a convention, let's take like the Blizzard Con, like BlizzCon is like, yeah, there's people that talk about stuff and there's panels, but it's mainly just like an advertising session and a bunch of models standing around in armor that they have never seen before this event, and like some announcements. Like, I want to go to a real.
Liam Neeson comes out and talks about orcs.
Yeah, I was once an orc. I'm like, no, you weren't, but thank you. But like, it's just one of those things where it's like, it'd be really cool to have an environment to go to that was like a big deal. They do one on like the East Coast or the West Coast or something. You just go and you meet with people and you do stuff and you learn.
Yeah.
Like, and I love that there's like online resources and books and stuff. But like, I've always been better in a classroom than I have than over like the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So like, playing with you has taught me infinitely more than anything that I did with my online sessions.
Oh, thanks, Murph.
So, well, I mean, but it's just like having the resource there. Like, I don't understand what I'm looking for in the book, and then you can walk up and be like, "Well, it's right here.
It's here.
Like this section
Look
specifically
right
is the part
right
you're
here.
looking for." Yeah, like that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's nice. That's why I sucked at online college, because I was like, "Bro, I have no idea what I'm doing."
Bro, what is this?
Yeah, those kind of things. If D&D, Wizards of the Coast,
get it done.
Hasbro.
And I will actually
wanna do
host it
something
and
like
answer
that, I
all
will
the
go.
questions. I will be the presenter. You don't need all these other
you
people.
joke about it, but at the same
No, I'm not
time, though,
joking.
if
I
they
would do
actually
it.
came out and said,
I would do
like,
it. If they said,
Would you
John,
host
we have you. We need
we
you.
like how you explain things.
Come on.
Please come out. You'd be like,
Your 3 viewers. One of them was the CEO of Dungeons and Dragons.
I think it'd be fucking
Gary
neat to say
Gygax.
that like in 10 years from now I could look back and like you're one of like the staff of Wizards of the Coast that get to make like. But think about it, like if they came to you and they came up
I'd
to
just
the
rather be
DMs
a
and they're like,
writer.
well, right, but like if they came up and they were like, all right, we got you, Matt Mercer, that guy from that other podcast that you enjoyed that I can't remember the name of.
That's
the one
okay.
That had this boat in space that they named something. I cannot remember. It was a weird play on words about a dick.
I don't remember
you talked
this.
about it before. It was like
I probably do. Don't. I don't remember this. It's okay though. I'm not disagreeing
like,
that I didn't call it that.
If they brought a bunch of people together and they were just like, what is the next feature in D&D that we could add that you as either a player or
Sex mechanics, lots of sex mechanics. I want straight sex mechanics. I want gay sex mechanics. I want bisexual sex mechanics.
I'm sorry, pause.
When
you said I want straight sex mechanics, I know that you were referring to the sexual orientation.
No, just like straight
when
up,
you said
straight up,
sex mechanics,
straight up
I thought
sex
you were like-
mechanics.
I thought you were
Come
defining,
on,
like,
wizards.
How intense you want the sex mechanics?
Conjure me up some
Like,
sex
roll to
mechanics.
cum, roll to cum, roll for pregnancy.
Constitution
roll for-
saving throw for getting
roll for
syphilis.
Intimacy overload into love. Like roll for
Nah,
cum.
that'd be too much.
Like, I'd like be interesting to see like them really reach out to the community and not just be like constantly like half stealing from creators who come up with third party stuff.
I don't know what you're talking
like-
about. They never do that.
Yeah, just
Never.
like Activision doesn't rip off other creators.
Well, look, I mean,
Activision's their
Activision
games.
is Activision.
Did you see the whole Blizzard thing with Overwatch 2? Yeah, man, I'm not even a fan of Overwatch, and my
I'm
Twitter
not.
keeps like people
was
are
like,
so mad,
dang.
and I'm just like, all right, I've been scrolling for an
That's
hour. And nobody's
crazy,
not.
bro. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Wow, you guys got.
That's why I don't play that
just like
game.
we have.
That's why I don't play
Wow.
MMOs. Fuck off.
Every major title that's released has been a disappointment in some aspect to someone. Who'd have thought?
Who knew? Anyway, Murph, it's getting that time.
It is. It's about time. That
We have a email, what'sinthedungeon@gmail.com. Please email us any questions you have. We have a Discord of the same name. We have a Twitch. Obviously, we're on Twitch right now. What's in the Dungeon podcast. We have a YouTube, What's in the Dungeon podcast. We have a Discord. You can hop in and ask some questions if you'd like. Email us questions. Tweet us questions. We got lots of ways to answer your questions, but we do have to have questions because we can't survive. I can't.
It would be
I can't
nice one
survive.
day. You know, I have an idea, and I know that we're on Twitch, and this is gonna sound blasphemous, but like, I'm not on my affiliated channel, so I don't care. We should try streaming on YouTube. To see
You know,
if
I
we
was
can
honestly
do shit.
thinking the same thing, Murphy.
We should stream on YouTube just to see, because there's so many more people on YouTube at any given time looking for stuff that we might actually just have
Yeah.
people pop in and ask questions. We also might have people pop in and spam bot us or shoot racial slurs all over the place.
But
We
Murph,
have no idea.
But Murph,
The gamble is based off the die roll.
it is the gamble based on the die roll.
Apparently
But
God controls.
we will be back either next week or the week after, guaranteed in 2 weeks, potentially next week, depending on everyone's schedules. So we will see everyone then. And of course, it is my turn finally. I get to ask this question. I'll be put on the
that's
spot.
I wish that, yeah. Say, what-
Oh my goodness! We've come into a dungeon. What is that over there? Look! It's a...
What is it that the adventurers see, Murphy? I can
At
do
the end of all things, at the end of all time, at the end of all courage and bewilderment,
This is
far
great.
end of a cavern,
Okay.
what they see is an original Macintosh computer.
Okay.
And on that Macintosh computer
Is it Doom?
is a recurring sequence of the letters C, L, and the numbers 14 and 37. And every time the screen changes colors, the sequence changes to show a picture of Rick Astley singing Never.
Of course. It was a Rickroll the whole time. God damn, you got me again, Murph.
Yeah.
All right, thank you everyone for tuning in who did. We had, I think, up to 3 or 4 viewers at one point. We appreciate it. Everyone have a great night. Stay frosty out there. And don't forget to tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your kids.
Tell your friends about me.
I've been John. That's been Murph. And as always, we've had a wonderful time here spending an hour and a half with you. Please stay safe and good night.
Bye.